Starts now. Yes, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Okay, so the only thing that's between you and lunch, okay? So I need you to work up that appetite, right? Is that a deal? Okay, so this afternoon we're going to have a conversation about artificial intelligence and also how we can use artificial intelligence to transform business models and also revenue streams. Because I think that one of the challenges with technology is how do we use it effectively enough to sort of transform what we do. And I think I have 4 amazing gentlemen, and I think, thank goodness, it's not a manel. You know, normally we have too many men in the technology space, so we need more women working in the technology space, so I need female panelists. So I'm going to beat them up, don't worry. Am I allowed? Yes. Okay, great. So now, this afternoon, we're going to be having a conversation about artificial intelligence, and we don't have very much time, so I'm just going to get started immediately. And Bayo, I'll start with you. And so basically, can you just give us a broad overview of what we mean by artificial intelligence? Because I think it means different things to different people. So before we launch into the conversation, let's set the context and have a broad overview. So go ahead.
Thanks. Artificial intelligence, just as it sounds, intelligence that is artificial. So essentially what we're saying is that we codify intelligence into machine to the extent that machine can think. Think means they can act, they can evaluate, judge, and most importantly, they can learn. So based on what has happened in the past, they can help make decisions about the future, and this they can do on their own. You know, so broadly, when you talk about artificial intelligence, it's capability of machine to act at a level that is more than humans. So when you see things like robots, intelligent assistants, any system that can accelerate thinking process at a level such that there can be a way of learning beyond prediction to the level of what we call prescription. Prescription means I can make judgment based on several options to the extent that I can use the past, the present, to accurately act or respond to a particular problem or it's a particular issue. So if you pick a case of a self-driving car, you know, it studies the road, studies the other car, and other objects. And based on the other entity around, it can intelligently make decisions on how best to move and decide at that particular time. So broadly, artificial intelligence and its varied extensions in machine learning or deep learning is the ability of machine to think, act like man, and even do it better than many of us in the room. Thanks.
Okay, so Bayo, we think, evaluate, judge, act intelligently. So what happens to us? Because I think that that's one of the biggest challenges with artificial intelligence. What really happens to us as human beings, and how do we complement artificial intelligence with human intelligence, not really trying to sort of wipe away the human intelligence?
Okay. I think the dominant theorem here is about man and machine complementing one another to create better value on a sustainable basis. Each time we talk about artificial intelligence, we must also talk about native intelligence. Because at the end of the day, artificial intelligence is about a system or a machine that acts based on the quality of information that is fed into it, which means that our rationality, our thinking, our ability is going to inform the quality of output that we're going to see from any machine. So the old theorem of garbage in, garbage out works. But more importantly is the fact that we must come to terms, looking at how man has evolved from time immemorial, that man has always been what I would call homo adaptors. That is, we have the ability to adapt to every situation we find ourselves. So in this situation, it's about adapting to work with machine to create a mutual value that is beneficial to ourselves and to machines.
Okay.
So we're not losing anything.
Okay, great. So I'm going to come to Wale now. So Wale, how are you helping organizations, because you're a development organization, so how are you helping other businesses build these systems that man and machine can adapt and work together?
Okay, so as a development company, what we've had to do is, so talking about AI, I'm talking about different applications of AI. So what we've had to do is when you review the processes of companies, especially when you look at automating several things, one of the things you find out is what AI brings to the table is the ability for you to transparently deliver a personalized service. And that's something that is very incredible when you think about the possibilities. So, for example, if you think of in financial services and you think of how traditionally banking has been something where people talk about you open a bank account, and when you open a bank account, it's of a particular account type, either it's savings or current, or it's stereotype because it's structured that way for a mass market, right? Now, with AI, and one of the things you can do is you can take a couple of characteristics and information from the users or customers and customize what the offering is. So gone are the days where it has to be a current account or it has to be a savings account. It could be a combination, just because you have different features you can put together. So it's one of the few things that we tend to help companies do, is add that kind of functionality to it. So that's on the business side. But then even when you look at the operations at the back end, a lot of efficiencies also come out of just putting in place some AI systems, things around predictive analysis. So we talk about things, I just want to give an example, where there's a solution we have that has to do with card issuance. And what it does is, for the AI part of it, something very simple at the back end. It helps predict how many cards will be issued at a bank branch. That sort of makes the system very effective, because then the cards at the branches don't have to be more than what needs to be at any point in time. Very efficient way of running a business, reduces your cost, and allows you to get new revenue streams from opportunities.
Okay, so thank you, Wale, and you brought us into the next conversation. This issue about personalization, and I'm going to start with you, Ernest, because you deal with financial services data. Personalization means that because you said it, you're going to give you a lot of information, you're going to use that information to make decisions about the types of products and services I'm going to use. But then we've all seen different examples of data breaches in terms of data protection and data security, and then this issue about privacy. How do I maintain some level of privacy, knowing that my whole 9 yards is in the public domain? So Ernest, tell us, how do you do that at Flutterwave?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start by apologizing for my CEO who just couldn't make it here today. Something came up, he has to fly out of the country. Again, to add to Bayo started with, and just to answer your question about the worry about AI taking over people's role. Yeah, we complement each other, but one key thing that AI does for us, whether business or individuals, is that it makes you more efficient. All right? We spend so much time doing things that could have been achieved in a short minute, but spending days in doing that. By the time you're able to put technology into such process, you become more efficient, more productive, and that also gets back to your numbers in terms of what you said your business is set up to do. Now, going back to the question that was asked, data integrity or compromise, if you look at it from the other angle, what do we do as a payment company? We build a system. Today, part of the information you enter when you are doing your payment processing as a consumer is actually encrypted. So we have built a system that enables your information pass from one point to the another without a breach, without somebody being able to hack in to terminate your transactions. And one thing Nigerian government have done, especially for the card processing, is the chip and PIN process that puts all your information on a chip, unlike the My Stripes that is sitting on your card, where it is a bit easier, more easier to break in. And the Nigeria has government, especially from the CBN angle, has set policies in place that payment companies must comply to before you are able to go into that area of business to play. Part of the rigorous process you go through to have a payment license in Nigeria is being able to meet certain standard. And such is the PCI DSS and ISO certification. And when these things are being done, professional institutions who monitor these processes visit your office to really check to be sure that these things are in place. So we do all of that to be able to secure your data. So it is not information you put in that somebody in between is able to access, but it's machine-driven and security, firewalls, everything is put in place to make sure your data is not compromised. We don't joke with us as a company, and all certification required to be able to play in the industry where we are today, we have them in place. And Nigerians don't only trust us, we have international organizations today who leverage on our payment system because they trust that their data is also secured. One of them is the OBA, which is a global company who depend on us for their processing in Nigeria and other part of Africa. So they wouldn't go into such partnership with us if they are not certain that the data where they put in, their consumers put in is not protected.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. But I think that I don't think anything is foolproof in the day and age we live in now. So don't give me, it's not about PCI DSS, and I believe all those things, but it's not foolproof. But again, let's look at privacy. Because I think privacy is really the next thing, and I think in the last panel, it was mentioned about posting pictures and sending things around. How do we begin to protect ourselves, and how is AI also expanding or disrupting our privacy in general?
One great thing about technology is being able to think for us based on the information or how they understand we act or behave in every activities we play, if we're able to capture that experience by every individual who participates. All right. Okay. Technology, as great as they are, depend on data have gathered over time. And that is what helps in making such decisions. What the AI does for us as a payment company, as a consumer, is just being able to interpret the experiences over time and give information that judges or make a decision that is in line with what the expected outcome. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Deji, don't worry, I haven't forgotten you. So now, Ernest said, interpret experiences over time. Experiences over time means we have access to large sets and volumes of data, right? As a data company, how are you using data analytics and fusing it with AI to ensure that we can actually get these experiences and decisions and predictive things that they're all talking about here?
Thank you very much. Like you said, and as Dr. Bayo has defined as well, in practical terms, the point of artificial intelligence comes to play when a system can learn from past experience, when it can generalize from specifics, and then use that ability to solve problems that it has not seen before. So what that means is the more data we have access to, the more intelligent the system becomes. So for us, being in business for about 8 years now, we've gathered a lot of anonymized data about consumers. And then all of those things put together, we're able to predict the next action that the customers are likely to perform. It's about pattern recognition. And the beauty of it, touching on privacy just a bit, is that the entire thing is anonymized. When you build models, you really do not need to know the name, not even the phone number. All you need is a unique identifier that makes sure that the next time you see that user, you recognize that profile all over again. So bringing all of those things together, layering machine learning on top of it, deep learning as well, we're able to a very large extent, predict the probability of a user performing an action based on historical data.
Okay. But then again, so let's talk about it. To what extent African businesses and Nigerian businesses in particular leveraging data to understand customer profiles, behaviors, and then to build better products and services in that area?
Thank you. I think in the past 3 to 4 years, there's been a lot of improvements, especially from the startup side, and also a lot of enterprises as well are adopting AI faster than we thought. We work closely with the banks, with the telcos, and everybody is trying to get more out of the customers. You're not just going after new customers, but you're saying, this guy, how much more can I derive from this customer? So what we realize is AI has come faster than we thought. So right now, indirectly, in everything we do, somehow there's an element of artificial intelligence embedded in it. While you talked about the apps that they build for banks and how they determine how users interact. So going back to personalization, it's an age where the way I interact with my phone or with my bank is not how you interact with your bank. It's not how my cousins in Oshugo interact with the bank. So banks now understand that every single customer wants a tailored experience. And they don't want to be treated the same way the next guy is treated. And we can see them taking steps already, improving on that. The telcos as well. A couple of years ago, there were several issues around spam messages. All of those things have reduced significantly. But telcos are still marketing. The difference is they're using data, they're using artificial intelligence to understand people who have the propensity to buy what they're selling. So from where we sit, we think that there's a lot of uptake on that front.
Okay, so Bayo, let me come to you on that, and I'm going to come back on this issue about tailored experiences. Bayo, how are we developing big data research and analysis skills? Because everything we're talking about, we're doing, and going from the previous conversation, the ecosystem to drive data and analysis comes from backward integrating into universities, students, degree programs, et cetera, et cetera. What's the status of that in Nigeria currently?
Thank you. I think for me, that's even more critical to discuss and perhaps to even push as a strong discussion point. Because we are a nation that has grown on certification and not on skills. You see someone who says, I have a PhD in computer science, specializing in machine learning, and he cannot develop simple models. He cannot even build a simple chatbot. So essentially, there are certain abnormality within the entire value chain. And that's why in the last few months and maybe few years, we have seen quite a lot of private sector-led, non-profit-led. I lead one called Data Science Nigeria. I know Lagos Business School has such initiative. And there are a lot of companies, I know Terragon is quite strong on that, on deliberately building capacity. And I think this is even more important because if we realize that our future will be defined by the quantum of AI application, then we need to build talent that are tailor-made to work and serve in that reality. For example, as late as last year, a country like China already has embedded artificial learning as a subject in secondary school. And to be very frank, we actually have young people who have ability and adaptability to pick their skills. We ran an AI summer school last year at University of Lagos for grade 5 to 9, and we were shocked that a lady of grade 7 could build a simple regression model based on traditional Y is equal to MX plus C. We were blown away. So the capacity is there. We now need to design programs to be able to stretch them. So I do know that from a government perspective, there's a lot of discussion. But one thing that excites me most about Nigerian youth is the fact that they are taking their future in their hands. Last year, we did inter-campus machine learning competition. We had 95 institutions that participated and over 10,000 students. And they were learning new codes that were not taught in school, not Fortran, not COBOL, not BASIC. They were learning Python, they were doing TensorFlow, they were doing Keras, and they were willing to take it up. So I think what is needed now is how to now bring it all together into a system. But I still believe that private sector, we still have a lot to do to drive it. The other point I need to mention is the fact that as these students are learning the skills, companies must allow them to come in and practicalize. And that is a good example we've also seen through some of the hackathons we do. After we are done, companies take them up. And I give kudos to the likes of Access Bank, to the likes of KPMG and Terragon, and Blue Chip, that after we've trained these young guys in the boot camp, they allow them to come in and practicalize their learning. Because it's that practical application that makes those theoretical principles more meaningful and more realistic.
So thank you, Bayo. So I think that basically we need to scale such opportunities. So maybe this is one of the things we can do with the Avanti system in general. And also build, while we're building the demand side, how do we also build the supply side to ensure that we can actually infuse this talent into our organizations and derive the productivity and benefits that Ernest talked about. So now I want to talk briefly about a practical use case for AI. And I'm building on what you said in the area of financial inclusion, which is a pet project of mine. So now, since you said the banks are giving us a tailored experience, right? Why do we have such high rates of exclusion in Nigeria?
Thank you. My opinion, I think financial inclusion, it's partly an education problem and an empowerment problem. It's either the people do not know that these things exist, or they don't have the means or the access to those things in the first place. In terms of how businesses, banks have been able to reach and communicate and educate consumers, there's a bit of a chasm in there in terms of how best to reach those people. And that's why the excluded segment in the society are typically people in rural areas and people don't have direct or ready access to the internet. So what we think is that if we can do better with educating the consumers and then helping them understand what is possible, when they try the experience for the first time, if it's truly tailored, they get hooked and they become, if you may, evangelists.
Okay, so what you've done, Deji, is throw it back in the hands of the consumers that they're stupid. Kind of.
Did I?
Yeah. No, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is don't forget that every single Nigerian consumer partakes in some form of transaction cycle.
That's correct.
So why they're not using the formal and depending on the informal, I don't think it's just about their knowledge or awareness in general. Because bottom line is that they're still transacting.
That's correct.
And how do we take those transactions? But I'm not going to get into that argument. I'm just going to lay it down there, okay? But Ernest, let me ask you now. How are you using artificial intelligence to enhance financial inclusion? And don't forget that I'm building on the fact that we said, we can do personalized service. So even if I'm in a rural area, doesn't mean I have to migrate to the city. I should be served. And with the Avanti system now, there is nationwide coverage, right?
Correct.
So we don't have any inhibitions in that area. So Ernest, how are you doing it?
All right, I will answer the question by starting from why cashless policy in Nigeria wasn't as successful as we expected. Apart from knowledge not being there shared to the people concerned, the major problem I saw, because I was also part of the entire process while I was in the bank, is letting Nigerian banks drive the process. Federal government policy handed over to Nigerian banks, and an average Nigerian bank, or every Nigerian bank, is out for business. They want to invest and make money. But we came into that cashless with high costs. I think a single POS terminal then was costing 120 to 150,000. And you take it to remote area, there's no network. And those were the issues that affected that. And I'm sure we're getting it right now with better technology, reduced cost, physical terminals and stuff like that. How are we as a company using artificial intelligence to impact businesses today? I will just give you an example. Before now, for every Nigerian that needs a loan, you go to your bank and you fill tons of forms. And when you finish, it's handed over to your account officer hand over to a risk officer who keep reviewing manually, just in sometimes emotional judgment, sentiment, and looking at your account flow and all of that. How much does he earn? But lending is beyond all of that. Today we'll build a system that we'll be launching soon. We've piloted with a few loan companies that I am at 4 points or spa, shopping. I've got out all the goods I want to pay for. And it comes up to 30,000 or 50,000 or 150,000. And in my account I have about 100, so I'll need 50,000 shots. The system is able, if you're using our payment gateway, to tell you, present to you that there's a loan option to make up for this. So the merchant is happy because he's able to conclude a transaction. You are able to continue, pay for what you want to, your goods you're there for, and walk away. Everybody is happy because we build an artificial intelligence that runs a check of who you are and present information to partnering loan companies who will look at it and run their own profile from the available data to take a decision whether or not to advance this loan to you to conclude here.
Okay, so going back, building on that, you're talking about data. So I'm passionate about the people who we don't see. Because these people are not on any record whatsoever. Some of them maybe just have access to or use a mobile phone, and that's the only thing they use. So I'm not going to go into the high-end Lagos
Right.
market, okay?
Okay, yeah,
So
I can
how
speak to
do
that.
how do we build complementary data sets or proxy data sets to ensure that we can actually have insights into the livelihoods of these excluded or underserved and provide products and services that can meet their own needs as well?
Right. Institutions like EFINA have helped tremendously in this area, gathering data all over the country, where the opportunities are, how do we serve that market, and all of that. Today, we have also developed a product for agent business distribution. Obviously, we can't be everywhere, but there are small businesses today who come to us to use our agent platform to be able to do business in those remote areas. And we're able to gather such data again to analyze and see where next to go based on the experience in these locations and all of that. Yeah.
Wale, you do microfinance banking, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Tell us a little bit about how your application is enhancing reach and access to the underserved.
Okay, so what we've done for the microfinance is we basically built a shared platform on the cloud for powering the core banking and even the different channels. Now, what you find usually is, and to speak to Ernest's point here of the need to get data and use the data to actually do a lot of intelligence, is that there needs to be a setup of the infrastructure, basic infrastructure. So what you find lacking in the beginning is most of these institutions, even the smaller microfinance, didn't have real infrastructure to power the business. You can't run AI off physical ledgers or anything. You need a system to do that. You can't run it off data of cash moving around because then there's no information there. So the first step usually is to build that infrastructure. There's communication layer, and then there's the digitization part of it, where we need to capture that information provided, and then we can leverage that on top. So what we've done for microfinance is sort of sorted out the middle layer, which is how do we ensure that let everything be running through a system, a digital form. Then when you have that, we can take all that information and then make it available to AI systems to actually improve the experience and the usage in that area. One of the key things is mentioned is also tied to credit scoring, taking loans actually. And then, because what you find is the reason why microfinance is very key is so that we can actually give loans to people that need it at that particular segment. But then it is also a very risky thing to do. So you need some level of assurance that if I'm going to give out this loan, then I'll probably get it back. But then the process has been in place for a while, especially if you're a small microfinance, is that you would have to run a lot of manual processes. And then automating that and then putting a system like a credit scoring system is going to allow you to be able to achieve that, no matter how small you are, how new you are, and how you run. So I think that's like a major play for us there.
Okay. And Deji, do you provide alternative data sets to people like Wale to sort of build a more robust predictive engine, for example, in terms of their profiling?
Definitely, we do. We've been working with the telcos for about 8 years now. So we use the behavioral data of consumers on the network, the services they subscribe to, how they engage with content, both online and offline, how often they do USSD transactions. So all of those data sets are the things that we're able to include and add to what the banks already have to provide richer data sets.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, we have the nuts and bolts,
Yeah.
but we're not able to sort of apply them into products and services that can really reach the unbanked in general, right?
Well, applying them is just taking time.
So maybe we need more machines to help us in that area or something or the other. But I think, again, so let's go back to our broader economic perspective and Nigeria in general. So Ernest, you started off saying, artificial intelligence helps drive efficiency and productivity. So from what I see is that, so we can use it as a tool for national development.
Obviously.
Okay, so I'm going to ask all of you to start thinking about your thoughts. What is your one big idea of how artificial intelligence can drive national development? So, and I'll start with you, Ernest, and we'll walk away around. And please, we can't repeat the same answers, okay? So we want some diverse answers and, again, innovative ideas as well. So, Ernest, go ahead.
All right. Today, we have been able to open up businesses beyond locations. That's one thing technology have done, looking at data, available data, and opening up options, multiple options to every individual, whether or not they sit in Lagos or they sit in Aba or they sit in Kano. So if you're able to build a system that opens up options to people, so you get to Kano, they have an acceptable payment option. They come to Lagos, you have acceptable payment option based on reliable payment infrastructure that is open to them to use. So that is one way we've been able to...
So you've enhanced financial system infrastructure, and that sort of opens barriers and removes boundaries.
Exactly.
Great. Bayo.
I always go back to the conversation on financial inclusion to add to this last question. I strongly believe that we need to look at it more carefully, and I would defer to Professor C.K. Prahalad, who said there's a lot of wealth at the bottom of the pyramid. The issue is we need to first of all realize, since we're a commercial enterprise, that there's a lot of opportunity to be unlocked in the bottom of the pyramid. The issue is we have not yet created the right way of knowing them and servicing them. And we can actually serve them profitably. And that leads me to the issue of frugal innovation. Because if I link it back to national development, we're still about 90-10% country. 90% are still low, 10% are up. So if we can fix 90%, we're going to increase our productivity, and that adds up to GDP, and the whole national development question is answered. So for me, from telco, we have learned that there are a lot of opportunity within the low income. You just need to create what is appropriate for them. I will give 3 instances. There's something we call me back. I don't have money, but I initiate an uncompleted call. We call it flash me, or sometimes it can be like an SMS. And somebody is made to call the person back. So what have I done? I've made somebody to spend money that the person is not planning to spend. Now, there are instances where people don't even have money, and I have things like borrow me credit. And these are people that are not even within the 35 million unique BVN enrollment, and yet they're already used to the mindset that when I need money, in form of airtime, I can place a demand and somebody can get it for me. So there must be a proactive effort in that line to begin to ask ourselves, what new ways can we serve the low income? Because if we do not address that broader segment of our population, we can't see sustainable national development. And financial inclusion is a big focus to look at.
Okay, so Bayo, what you're saying is that we need to understand the low-income populations because they have needs, and they're also members of the ecosystem that can really drive national development if we build appropriate products and services to suit them. Okay, great. So, Deji.
Thank you. So for me, I'm going to go with access and reach to the people at this bottom of the pyramid. We work a lot with startups in the space, and I understand that one of the biggest problems businesses have had in Nigeria in the past couple of years is being able to do business profitably. The cost of servicing the customer versus the willingness to pay is a big problem. So for us, we think that with artificial intelligence, we can help businesses reach consumers in a very cheap way and help them to deliver value and also profit from that. I think that once the inclusion problem is solved, which means that payment is no more a problem, the next thing is getting the word out there to let these people understand that these services exist and there's value to be exchanged. So for me, that's the biggest thing I'm going to go after.
Okay, so your point is that we need to make digital access a reality.
That's correct.
To drop the cost of doing business and transaction processing in general.
That's correct.
Okay, great. And then, last but not the least.
Okay, I think I'm going to take it from 2 different angles. The first one is on identity. Okay, so I feel, well, with AI, if we could work on connecting the different systems we have, and especially leveraging things like biometrics to facial recognition and different things like that, then we could build a system where most of the financial services, part of the thing is the risk is always tied to, major risk is tied to not knowing who you are dealing with or as a company. And one of the things there is identity helps address that. And if you can use technology to sort of take care of that situation, then that is one aspect we can see. Then the second one is, this is just more of a personal thing for me, is tied to the fact that once we're able to get AI and technology in a way that companies are able to leverage it and be more profitable, then I see a situation where we give back to the economy, to the community. And in a sense, there's a concept called UBI, Universal Basic Income, and I strongly believe that your level of automation can drive returning back to the society as a whole, and that can be something to be explored sometime in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I think that's in terms of that issue about social giving back and social schemes. So we're building a pyramid system that sort of has a domino effect in general. And this issue of identity is critical because we need to know who we're dealing with for any type of transaction and enhance the trust levels that we have in our organization. So other than knowledge, and this is my final question before we take questions from the audience, other than skill development and knowledge, what else do we need to be doing to ensure that we can access or do all the things you said we can do? What do we need to be doing now to prepare the country to be able to ensure that maybe 2020, 21, 22, we can begin to reap some of the benefits? Other than skills, anything else?
Okay, thank you. I think the governance framework that is going to drive the use of data, I think that's something that could make or mar the entire effort.
So data governance, right?
Yeah, data governance.
Anything else?
I think preparing ourselves for the future deliberately by having the right skill set, for me, is very, very critical. I recall a paper I read from McKinsey Global Institute that said that by 2030, 30% of current jobs won't be available again to man because machines can do them better. So what does that mean? We need to start building our capacity for the job of the future. So the question is, what are the jobs of the future? We need to begin to think ahead and begin to prepare. Not that the future will come and we're struggling. And of course, that links back to the right policy framework that allows us to train ourselves, retool ourselves for the future, which is going to be man, machine, different capacity.
Okay, so reskill, retool, and prepare, but I think also it's about, let's be deliberate about it and systematic about it and not be caught unawares in general. Okay, Ernest, you want to say?
I was going to ask sincerity of purpose by all stakeholders.
Okay.
Starting from the government, the private sector, agencies involved, techos, agencies that oversee this kind of NCC, everybody involved in the value chain must be committed to getting this done because we care about this country. We care about things that have to be successful for everyone.
So let's take it beyond lip service, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Finally, Wale.
Yeah, I would hate to sound like I'm just going to repeat everybody.
If you don't have anything to say,
no,
it's okay.
but the thing is, and I think more importantly, is about still preparing the ground for what is going to happen. We need to accept that AI is here, and the fact that it's here, we need to leverage that going forward. Yes, there will be some jobs that seem like they would no longer be relevant, but then there will be new jobs. And that is something very key to note. The good thing about technology, and especially things like AI, is that it increases productivity. We will grow. And if we will grow and those opportunities will come, then it just means it's something we should actually work towards and fast track. So that's my take.
So we also need more opportunities like this to sort of begin to help us build a different mindset as to how we can look into the future and become more visionary in how we see things in general. So thank you, esteemed gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions for my panelists here? So
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay. Once again, can we appreciate the panelists? Can we appreciate the panelists? Thank you. Okay, quickly with us, quickly. Yes, get questions.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Dima Brown. I'm into data science, as it were. My question goes to, we are all discussing the importance and how data and how technology is going to move and help us and make the place better. My focus more is what enables this technology that gives every other person business. For me, the answer is a smartphone, a mobile phone. So we could do all the AIs and everything, but if the end users are not relating to us with a smart device, then there's really not much information we can get. So secondly now, if we now know that we need a smart device, what has been the support for businesses? I know you support initiatives, you do coding for people to come learn skills. Well, is anybody wondering, for instance now, Samsung, iPad, iPhones, they are the market brands. There's also the Technos, the Infinix, and I believe there are some Nigerian companies that come. My question generally is, how are you supporting smartphone? How are you supporting technology in devices?
Okay, so because I was, did you get the question? Did you all get the question? Okay, yes, ma'am. Can we ask? Okay, she wants us to ask more questions so that she can. So you were the one who talked about that you get to a supermarket and then you have SS. You can also. Yes, you were the one that. Ernest, you talked. Yeah, yes, I'm very interested in that one. That you have 10,000 and they just go. Yes, can I tell us your name and.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Kofi Abraham. I'm an IoT developer.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Bayo said something. He said, building our capacity for the job of the future, for the job of the future. Something is very important and very essential. With the right knowledge, if we have to build a capacity for the future, we have to do it with the right knowledge.
Yes.
Some of us that do this, like I can say in my class, we just have out of about 105 of us that are graduated from the department, we just have only 5 of us that have this technical know-how of the trending things going on around us. You understand? We have knowledge of AI and the rest. Now, you made mention of outdated programming language like the QBasic, but these are the things we'll still find in the university. And some
in the university, what university are you?
Okay. Okay, it's FUTA, Federal University of Technology, Akure. Now, these are the things you still find there and you still see students that still repeat this over and over time because they feel it. When we have better programming language like C#, C++, that people
C#? Really? I thought it was just for the
so
choir.
What's your question?
Okay, because I want to know the C# question. Yeah.
My question now is, are there infrastructures to help these students?
In
because
university.
all of us just take these things up individually. And companies like AppZone, at the end of the day, when they will be absorbing you in, they still have to go through a process of training you again into the system. It will help them better if they can also
start from the year. Exactly. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I almost went to the school. Okay. Yeah. Let's appreciate him. Let's appreciate him, please. Yeah. Okay. How many more questions? Okay. Let's take 4 more, right? Okay. Sorry, tell us your name and the university you went to. Yeah.
My name is Michael.
Okay.
I attended Ekiti State University.
Oh, great. They are in pains. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I studied computer science in school, and I realized that there is a wide disconnect between the industry and the Nigerian education system.
Okay. So the question.
So what is being done by? Is there anything being done to bridge this gap?
Okay, that's basically an addition to what the client question asked. Thank you so much. It's really an issue. It's a problem. Okay, so let's bring it to the floor. Let's bring it to. I have the yes. Don't worry, you will also answer. Yes. You.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the discussion.
Good afternoon.
My name is Onyinye Mwabuzo, Mrs., and I am a lawyer.
Oh, great.
But my interest in this is that I develop content for apps. That's an interest, which I developed when I did my master's in computer and communications.
Wow.
So, but because you talked about artificial intelligence in terms of helping being efficient, But there is an issue, and that issue is the issue of identification and privacy. Do you think that the reason why people are not adopting or wanting to be identified is because they are afraid that the information they are giving out is not being used, or it will be used for something different from what they gave it out for? Do you think that is the reason why people are not adopting?
Okay. Thank you so much, my legal luminary. Thank you. Okay, we should move to this side. Can we move to this side? Sorry, she wanted to ask a question, but don't worry, you'll ask the question. Can we move to this side? So who exactly wants to? Okay. 3. We'll take 3 from this side. 3, yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Thanks for the panel. I am a graduate of telecommunication science.
You are a graduate of
telecommunication science.
Okay.
And I appreciate what MainOne is doing.
Okay.
My question is, when it comes to AI, something is being neglected. Technology in general, something is being neglected. Those who are in charge of the connectivity.
Did you get that? Did you get the last word is yes? No. She didn't get your name. Sorry.
Oje Abdulkadri.
Your what?
Oje Abdulkadri.
Okay, that's his name. Yeah. Okay, so
what I was saying is something is being neglected, which is the part of the connectivity between ends. That is the interconnection, the networking aspect of AI, ICT in general. It is always been left out, such that only those who are inclined or have interest in it know about it. So how do we bridge this gap between the telecommunication aspect and the app developing aspect, such that they work hand in hand, and then the jobs of those who do the telecommunications or networking is not taken from them by those who also program?
Ma, did you get the question, ma?
Basically, you're asking about the architecture, right? How do we build unified architecture?
No, that's not what he's talking about, because even the bridge, they said they will close it next to tomorrow for the rally. Yeah, so we don't know the exact bridge he's talking about. Are you talking about the rally? They told me, like, okay, yeah. Because right now, all the bridges are closed from tonight because Buhari is coming to Lagos. So don't use anything bridge right now, because I can't cope that they will close it. Somebody's passing through Krodu, they are closed. It's okay, I'm not transferring any aggression. Can you ask the question? But don't mention any bridge. Don't get me angry, please. Yes, question.
Okay, basically, my one is not like a question, it's just like a...
No, we want a question. You want...
Question, not really a question.
Please, because we need to quickly we need to round up the segment. People, we need to take lunch. Don't shout on me. I'm a married one. Don't shout on me. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Dorcas, and I'm a member of Data Science Nigeria.
Okay.
I know Mr. Bayo very well.
Okay.
And I'm also a graduate of Olabisi Onabanjo University.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I think the problem of data science not getting to some universities is because most of our lecturers are not involved. They don't know about it.
Yes.
I would say it was a female lecturer who introduced me to women in data science, and that was how I joined data science in Nigeria. I attended some boot camps and some things.
Wow.
So I think rephrasing the questions that all the students have been asking is, how is Mr. Bayo going to make data science get to those universities that don't know about it?
Yes, thank you. Especially for the fact that they called off the strike yesterday, right? So even before they even resume, they need to let's appreciate the government for allowing, after 3 months, for allowing, it's after 3 months to allow this. Yes. How do you, the things that somebody have learned in 100 level before, yeah. Final question, because I don't want to get angry this segment here.
Good afternoon. My name is Taiwo. My question is there a legislation around artificial intelligence, especially with regards to data sharing? Because as a consumer, I'm concerned. I'll give an example. Sometimes you go to Google, you are searching for something. The next thing you are on Jumia. Jumia is suggesting that same thing to you. You go to Konga, you see the same thing. And sometimes it makes me feel kind of violated, that my privacy is violated, because I didn't put my name anywhere, and then it's like everybody's all over me, chasing me.
Oh my
I'm
God.
on my Yahoo Mail, I'm seeing this thing everywhere. So is there a legislation around it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Taiwo.
I need to ask, are you married?
He's the one that is doing it to you.
So he's the one.
It's Deji
He's the
that's
one.
doing
Yeah.
it to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially if you're not married. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think. So do you mind? Let's quickly take this one so we don't, because we need to round off. It's almost free at lunch. It's been said. The way we want to do lunch is some of us may have to step out. We don't want to rush it. It's a 2-hour type. You could actually, please.
Okay.
So let me just go
start
to
with Sufi's question, and Wale, you'll help us answer that. And I think that was about building connectivity, capacity for the job of the future, and things like that. And how do we begin to help students who are coming out of school upskill and onboard into organizations?
Okay, like Bayo mentioned, actually, there are a couple of hackathons, a couple of programs, skill development workshops, boot camps. This is as far as we can really go in the private sector. What we're expecting is it's something we want to show and share, and then hope the government can see and schools can see that this is the direction. Something we've done personally is also training. So one of the things we expect is we go to schools and we work with the different departments and try to get young guys. We already know that that information might not be fully there, and we're willing to train. So that's also very key. But something else I also want to mention, and as an employer, I find very key and necessary for everybody is there's a lot of information out there. There's the internet. There are a lot of courses online. You can learn almost anything online. So what I find is, if you're truly driven and you're interested in something, go online and pick it up. There are all these other opportunities, but with that, what you find is you can equip yourself. This is not like back in the days, maybe like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we had the same experience. You leave school, what you were taught in school is practically old-fashioned and is not applicable. But then we didn't really have that much connectivity and internet access. It's different right now. We have MainOne, we have all the connectivity we need. So I employ young guys and ladies, go online. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of free courses from the best schools on the planet. So really, that is something that will happen. The other thing I also encourage, and this is more on the startup side and our professionals that are out there. I know AI, for example, is something that is actually a very tough field. And what we expect is anybody that's gone out there and studied it should come back to Nigeria and set up something so we can see a practical approach on how that is done and people will learn from it.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Deji, I'm going to ask you to take the questions on this issue of privacy and in terms of fear of how our information is being used,
Okay.
and also what Taiwo said in terms of going from site to site and capturing her data and feeling violated. How are you, as one of the propagators in this ecosystem, also working with government to ensure that we have the right responsible policies to ensure that the users feel protected?
Thank you. Privacy is a big topic everywhere in the world, not just in Nigeria. And it's something we've had to explain at every point, every meeting, every session where you have to explain why this thing is such a big problem. We're working with various regulators, bodies, and there are several committees globally trying to fix these problems. From our own side, to that particular example, the way you exist in our database or in any company's database is as alphanumeric characters, zeros and ones. I don't know who you are in person. If I meet you on the road, I won't know who you are. I won't be able to recognize you. But I have your digital footprint, and that's how we're able to target you. Now, the reason why we do that is to, again, personalize and provide a tailored experience to you. The thing about advertising is it's never going to go away, unfortunately. There's been a number of attempts recently with ad blockers and stuff, but ads fund the free content we enjoy on the internet. So what we are trying to do is to make sure that at least if you're going to see ads, they are relevant to you. You are grateful to see those things. So when we're following you on Jumia, we're helping you because we think you really need those things. And we know you can afford those things. We don't want you to go to Balogun Market and be stressing yourself. So we're bringing it to you, really. And there are several frameworks that guide the way the data is transferred, stored, and ultimately with things like GDPR in Europe now, you have the power to withdraw consent at every point. So at some point you can wake up and say, you know what, stop tracking me, delete the cookies, and that's it. You become a new profile in our database. So those are the kind of things that we do to make consumers comfortable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to come to you, Bayo, and can you take the question on this issue about the building technology or AI for smart devices and at the front end? Because I think that one thing maybe Dima didn't quite see is that a lot of what we do is driven by the back end systems, and with the front end is just projecting it from any channel or any device that you have in your hand. So talk to us about the demarcation and what we're doing at the front end, and I'll ask you that, Ernest, as well, to chime in.
Okay, good. First, I think I want to speak to the general positioning of AI within our world. First, we need to understand that what English language is today to every discipline, where whether you're a botanist, you're a microbiologist, you are a doctor, English language is a baseline. So also in the immediate future, AI is going to be a baseline where you're going to express whatever you are doing. So whether you are in medicine, whatever industry you find yourself, I think it's important to demonstrate that. So what becomes important therefore when we come into technology is building what I would call, a platform where people can, deploy whatever they want to do on. Today we don't have that. Perhaps what we have will be things that have been built by TensorFlow, quite a lot of Keras where we have a lot of libraries that you can build on. But I believe we need a lot of local use cases. And I think we have that demand to begin to build local use cases that people can build on and that can accelerate development. And that takes me to democratizing knowledge. And I'm very, very passionate about this. My colleague has spoken about it. I want to emphasize it. Today, whether you are in University of Ekiti or you are in Castina University, you have access to the same level of information as MIT, Harvard, or Stanford student. All their best classes are online. So the question is, what do you do on the internet today? With the likes of MainOne, MTN has some of the best data packages. You can use the internet well to access the right content that can allow you to build the right platform and architecture that we need locally to be able to accelerate other application of AI in so many industries. We're talking about financial inclusion. I want to see a situation where there is a plug and fix platform that can allow anybody anywhere to build whatever he wants to build, and it can be layered on top of it. So the question is, what do you want to do now? Not what your lecturers will do for you or what the government will do. It's more about what you and I can do for ourselves.
Thank you. So Ernest, chime in.
All right, thank you. Just to the first question, what are we doing with smartphones as payment companies or technology companies? You do any business today that has to do with payments, and you don't pay attention to smartphones, actually. Because one thing we've achieved well in Nigeria is to be able to also recognize that there are phones that are not smart enough, but should be able to do what smartphones are doing. And that's the success we've made in this part of the country. I was in a meeting somewhere outside the country, and I kept talking about USSD, and the guy, what is USSD? What do you mean by USSD? So we have huge number of Nigerians who have phones, but feature phones, and they are not able to use app like you and I do, but we're able to provide for them. So as payment companies, we've been able to achieve that level of inclusiveness where we recognize that there are people who can afford certain phones, but should be able to provide services that will give them access to financial transactions without having such smartphones. And as a company, I must say, Flutterwave was set up for B2B business. We were just there for enterprise institutions. But we've been able to launch a consumer app that is sitting across iOS and Android for Nigerians and everybody in the world to be able to do transactions. So we recognize that fact that mobile is the access, all right? As a person running business in a bank, I remember driving internet banking to like 10,000 consumers on internet banking took me like 2 years. But when mobile app was launched, that number was achieved in 1 week. So we do know that, and we're making every effort to make sure that every service we offer today recognizes the importance of mobile app, which we give out the required data in the country.
So thank you very much. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I think AI is here to stay. and that's the general consensus. The applications are multidisciplinary and across industries. But I think the three entities that need to pay attention to it are the individuals. Individuals need to think about responsible use of systems. So also we too need to be careful about what we're posting, right? We're posting all sorts of things, thinking, and without thinking about it. These things are stored on computers and they will not be deleted in anytime soon. We also need to think about building and using systems. And when we say building and using systems, building means thinking about the storage structures we need to store. Because if you recall, the MainOne video said, I think, how many petabytes of data will be stored in the 90 seconds that we watch the video, right? The next thing is we need to think about the connectivity systems. How will the connectivity work? Because again, response time is an issue. And then we also need to think about the front-end systems in terms of the access and usability. On the company's side, who are adopting AI, there needs to be responsible use of data. And this is also going back to what Deji said. Data governance, even if we don't have regulations and policies, there's something called self-governance. Can we regulate one another to do what is right and what is of good ethical conduct? And then finally, the government also has a role to play. Government has right now what we call a data localization policy. In other words, what they're saying is that data about consumers, Nigerian consumers, should be resident in Nigeria, not resident on Amazon Web Services or some other cloud server somewhere else or the other. And then there's also things like consumer protection. When things go wrong, what is the process of redress to ensure that you can actually either take things down or actually sort of get your money back if your transaction fails? And then Deji also mentioned the issue about what's going on in Europe, GDPR. And then we're thinking in the banking industry about coming to an era where we're going to have open banking, where the consumer decides and chooses, who do I want to give access to my data? Okay, so the future is bright, the future is here. I graduated from University of Lagos in 1990, and when I was in Unilag, I was learning Fortran and COBOL. And that's not going to change because systems evolve at different paces, right? So, but don't use that as a backdrop to stop you from evolving yourself. You are your own future, and you have to create your own future. And that's why opportunities like this, you have to be the one to feed off them and take everything you can get, like a morsel of food. So rather than eating stomach infrastructure, let's do knowledge infrastructure, right? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, can we appreciate all our panelists? Can we appreciate them? Led by Dr. Olayinka David-West, the Senior Fellow, Operations Information Systems. Can we please be on our feet? Photographers, can we quickly take their pictures? Thank you so much. Wow, knowledge infrastructure. The first time I'm hearing that. Let's appreciate her. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if the CEO would like to join them to quickly take these pictures. Please, let's invite the CEO to take pictures with quickly. Mr. Ernest, thank you. Mr. Ernest, thank you so much for helping us here. Yeah. So the CEO will just join. Went to Unilag. You graduated Unilag in 1990. Yes, sir.